Oh, come on. That's not nice.
Is it not? Is it not?
Nice. He's not a nice person. He's never been nice.
Abe,
Don't try to rope me in.
is it true? In addition to being not nice? Because how else do you explain what's happened to her face in the last 5 years? Here we are, Abe Cast Iron Brains, a podcast that learned, along with the rest of the Western world, that Kate Middleton, turns out, has cancer. Shortly after we were done joking about her possibly being the victim of domestic abuse on last week's episode, and we don't want to apologize necessarily, but we would like to see some blood work or maybe some CAT scans just to confirm. My name is Bob, sitting across the way from my good friend and co-host. That's Abe. How you doing tonight, Abe?
Doing well, Bob.
Yeah, here we are. Lori's here too. How you doing tonight, Lori?
Miss having cats.
Lori misses having cats. Tonight is Monday, March 25th, 2024. After some technical difficulties, getting a little bit of a late start here. Abe,
Which means a shorter show.
Means-
because some of us have jobs.
a normal-sized show in all likelihood.
Fuck that. I'm going to
just-
be super annoying.
I'm going to take the over on how annoyed you get and how long the show goes. Yes, Lori?
That's what's going to happen. You understand?
Abe, you have a good weekend?
Yes, I watched some college basketball action. The March Madness
Oh, did you?
tournament
That's
began.
funny. I have a pop quiz hotshot for you, Abe.
Oh, shit. Here we go.
This is not our usual format for Pop Quiz Hotshot. Hey, Pop Quiz Hotshot, name one college basketball player still remaining in the NCAA tournament right now. We're down to 16 teams. That should give you roughly 200 names to choose from. Name one.
Caitlin Clark.
Oh, that is a woman.
No, that was good. That's a good answer.
It meets
And
the
that was-
standard of your
What's
question.
funny
It
here?
sure does.
What's funny here, Abe, is I could name two. My second pop quiz hotshot is name one college basketball player who is neither a woman nor LeBron James's son. Anywhere in college basketball, which is probably what, 2,000, 3,000 people who you could potentially name. Just give me a name. I'll Google it, and we'll find out if that person is a college basketball player.
I was
You would have
having
a
a
better
real
chance
problem.
of just randomly saying a name, throwing a dart at the phone
I was
book.
going to
and
actually
see-
just do that. Just hope.
Yeah.
I was having a real problem. Okay, there's Drake, the artist.
Yes.
Trying to make some cheese off a single is a process. Get it? Craft, single, cheese, process. Sit back and admire the talent that I possess.
Really stretching the definition of the.
Whatever.
Of the word
rapper?
there.
I don't know. There's Drake, the person who has music.
I think
Yes.
he's just an influencer at this point. He goes.
Okay,
He has
shut the
podcasts and
fuck
stuff.
up. Okay, then you have the Drake curse, which is the thing that happens
Hot sauce enthusiast Drake. Ask the Biffler crew.
when he throws his support behind a team.
Yeah, it always goes to shit.
That is the same person. What are we talking about?
No, but the Drake curse is
Yes.
is that having to do with that person?
Yeah, he's the same. He's the
Okay.
wealthy man who puts large amounts of money on
Yes.
gambles, and then his team
Okay,
loses,
shut
right?
up.
Okay.
Then there's my Twitter talking about Drake choking and Drake losing basketball. So I'm like,
Is there a college? I don't think there's a
there's
college
a
called
college Drake
Drake
that was
College.
supposed to win that didn't win. There's so many Drakes. There's
You've
a
named
Drake,
you've named two.
but there's the Drake curse,
The
which
same.
I understand is the same person, but if a team loses.
So Drake was a number 10 team. They lost to the number 7 team. I don't know what the big upset is
I
here.
don't know. It was very confusing.
I can't figure out just two.
It's just that basketball sucks.
Yeah. We watched very little of the tournament.
There was one.
I watched none so far.
There was one fun game, and then the rest were like whatever. It was like Houston, Texas A&M. Went up to like somebody scored 100 points.
Yeah, I watched like 10 seconds of it. I got an ESPN alert. It was like, hey, this crazy shit's going to happen. And I turned on the game, and it wasn't all that crazy or that fun.
Right.
So.
On also, besides the basketball, on Friday, I hung out with Tyler and friend. We played some poker.
Oh, yeah?
That's fun.
You played what? I'm sorry. I was excitedly exclaiming my delight. I didn't hear what you said you were playing.
Poker. You know, the card
Nice.
game. There's only like 5 of us.
Thing you do with Tyler.
And this is like, I don't know the last time I did win, but I did win this weekend.
Oh, wow.
Usually the insurmountable lead statements are like a curse on me. And I told one of Tyler's friends, like, 'cause he had a literally insurmountable lead, like, oh, man, the curse doesn't work on others, so you'll be fine. But I think you have an insurmountable lead, and then
I
lost.
can't think of a single time, Abe, when you have not deployed insurmountable lead on me or anyone else besides yourself, and it has not been a curse on that person. What are you talking about?
It doesn't remember anything.
I don't, yeah. According to my recollection, it never impacts anybody else.
I think this is plausible deniability for you to deny that you are the cause of much pain and suffering for a great number of people.
Not my doing. But no, it's a lot of fun.
Well, good. How's Tyler doing? Good?
He's good. He's, heading west in a couple of weeks.
Isn't he
A
always?
little
Always
earlier
heading
than
west.
usual. Yeah.
Well, good. Lori was out of town. I had just the kids here, just me and the kids. We did PTO stuff and baseball stuff all weekend and went out to dinner. I wanted to take the kids out to dinner, and I got the rare opportunity to take them somewhere besides the Mexican restaurant, because usually when I say,
Always have that opportunity.
what do you want to do for dinner? The kids always just say, Mexican. And I am a big fan of cheap Mexican food for dinner. One of our local cheap Mexican places, the Southerners know well. We have a few in Charlottesville because we are sort of south adjacent here in some way. And so that's normally what we do. But they did not both immediately leap at Mexican when I said, what do you want to do for dinner? And so I was like, all right, well, let's go find a burger place. And I was looking on the Google machine there and found a couple downtown that I wanted to try. And got downtown like before 6 o'clock and thought, yeah, it'll be fine. We don't have to.
Pause. This town is full of super lame early bird day drinkers. So on a Saturday, your peak dinner time is gonna be like 6 o'clock.
Yeah, I screwed that up.
Yes.
This is a college town.
No, it's a college town on the part with the college.
Okay.
But we live in the town part of the town.
There were a bunch of
with
college
a bunch
kids.
of old lame people.
There were a bunch of college kids walking around the downtown mall this weekend when I was there.
Are you sure that they weren't just in their 20s?
I mean, I don't know. I guess maybe they were in their 20s.
We are old.
We're pretty old. Anyway, both the burger places were overfilled and overflowing, so we had to leave the downtown area and head to a different restaurant just a mile down the street, which was fine. This is just an excuse for me to complain about the price of things these days, but this is just a very average sort of dumpy restaurant, like not at all a nice place. It's called Firefly. Maybe I shouldn't identify them for legal purposes, but it's called Firefly, and it has a normal sort of pubby menu in a fancier
video
town
games.
where they're going to have like the vegan, like the whole array of different vegan options or what have you on one part of the menu. But it's like a crappy little brew pub, not even a brew pub, just a crappy little burger bar kind of place, right? And they have pinball machines and a couple of old arcades there or what have you. And I spent $100 on the three of us and we all just got the cheeseburger. Like they have a cheeseburger on the menu as one of the three different burgers. And we all just got the cheeseburger and we got an appetizer of the tater tots, the tater tachos, they call them. Perfectly tasty, not very warm, not like a great product. Like it came out obviously the tater tots had been pre-prepared in some fashion, and then they maybe ran them under the heater and then added the nacho toppings to them. But a mediocre plate of food there as the appetizer. The burger was overcooked and kind of obviously overcharred and not that good. It was fucking $100 after tip, and not a crazy tip.
Not that this is going to make a difference. The burgers that come with fries or like in a drink or
Yeah, it came with one side. So the kids both got a little bowl of mac and cheese, and I got a sweet potato fries.
What's the menu price for that? Like, if I want a burger, what does it say on the thing?
$15.
It was like $16 or $17 for the cheese. Like, and it's
what shit costs now.
maybe a quarter pounder. Like maybe it's a quarter pounder. But yeah, like basically $20 an entree plus this $15 for this goddamn tater tachos that they brought us that were barely warmed over. And that's just like, I guess it's just me complaining about being in the world, but like $100 for something that I could have made at home for like $14 is like, what are we doing?
Well, you can't compare it to home, but like you can compare.
You can compare it to. That is what I compare it to. Is I can just go and with 20 minutes of preparation make effectively that exact same meal for $14 at home.
Yeah,
There's
and then
not a
meanwhile,
chance in hell I'm going out again anytime soon.
I go to a place where no fucking way in hell ever could I make that food, given years of training, and you turn your nose up at that too. So like,
I don't know that I would
win.
turn my nose up at that. I would treat that as an experience and sort of lament the $600 spent or whatever the cost was.
It wasn't $600.
Well, what was it then?
It was like $100 a person plus wine.
What are you out the door? $350 or something?
I guess between the two of us it was almost $600.
Oh, there we go.
I didn't pay for hers.
But anyway, yeah, that would obviously be, at least that's like going to fucking Disneyland or something, relatively speaking, for the restaurant version of that. And you go to a Michelin star restaurant, but like, I don't know. Part of it is like I always feel like I got the short end of the stick when I go out to a restaurant and I don't get the level of service that I'm expecting. Because I don't know. As someone who came out
got
of
spoiled in Athens.
Someone who came out, no, the service in Athens was never great.
The cost.
The cost
and the service was usually
that's true. The service was actually usually pretty good in Athens.
Because that was the main economy. It was a service economy.
Yeah.
Here it is a hospital and banks and a university.
Yeah, that's why I chuckled rudely when we talked about the cream of the crop being the servers who make a big pile of money at these fancy restaurants. Because like the servers that I had this weekend were just dreadful.
This is a horrible town for that.
Just barely even paying attention. Like, I mean, I didn't count the minutes, but they brought us our water and then nobody talked to us for like 10 minutes. Like we're just sitting there, like sitting around, waiting for something to happen. And it's not like the place was busy.
That's not what happened where I went. That's when a Michelin star is awarded. It's like for the service.
Yeah,
it was awesome.
All right, we mentioned the college basketball. A couple of things in the cast iron balls realm of things. It's time for sports here. Real quick, the NFL owners today unanimously approved a rule that bans the hip drop tackle. Did you see this, Abe? And do you know what the hip drop tackle is?
I assume that this is when, like you have a size difference, so like a secondary player going up against like a tight end, let's say, and then they tackle them below the waist. Isn't that the move that they're trying to get rid of? So
what you do is you have accomplished the goal of reaching the person with the ball, but you have not yet accomplished the goal of ceasing their forward momentum. And so you grab them generally around the waist, and then you lift your body off the ground as the tackler and use your weight to drag them to the ground. And it has the effect of often buckling the knees and making for a very awkward, or maybe even like making the ankle turn in an unfortunate way, and often the knee. And they showed video during the news conference showing 6 specific plays in which the hip drop tackle was used. And it was on to tight ends, running backs, and quarterbacks. So yeah, all of these bigger guys who players have trouble taking down. It was apparently deployed like nearly 250 times last year after they went through and counted them all up. It was approved unanimously because they don't want to see it anymore. The owners all approved this thing. This is not a thing that I'd heard about before the last couple of seasons, this hip drop tackle thing. It became a thing. And yeah, it always looks awkward when you see it happen, or they grab the guy around the waist and they lift themselves off the ground and then everybody falls down all at once. But also, does it sort of violate the spirit of the rules of football in any way to you? Like this constant refining of the what is and is not permitted on defense in terms of stopping the forward progress of the other guy?
I'm curious, what is the punishment? Is it going to be like a personal, like what is it going to be?
15 yards, yeah, 15 yards and potentially fines if it is particularly egregious or if it goes on more than once or something.
So I saw like two different stories like over the last week. One was this proposed, over the last week or so, I've seen it like mentioned that they were going to consider this and it was likely going to be approved. And then I also saw these stories where the NFL is concerned about the low scoring. Like the scoring has dipped a bit and they want the scoring to go up. And I don't know if there's any connection between the two. I assume that they're pushing this rule as a safety feature, right? Like we don't want players to get hurt. And that's why we're doing it.
Right. But also it will result in more offense.
It just so happens it will also achieve this other objective. But like on paper, because it sounds like, a lot of the feedback I've seen are like the defense complaining like, we don't have a lot of leeway anyways, and you're taking this away from us just to promote the offense some more. It's already like a...
Right, so you're saying we're not allowed to launch as a missile into the guy's head and neck area, and now we're not allowed to try to break his knees. How the fuck are we supposed to play defense
away the horse
anymore?
Collar. Like, you can't do anything. You can't do anything.
On the same front of trying to increase scoring, they might vote this week. There's some deadline here in the next week or so that they're running up against where they have to make these rules changes here before some deadline on the sports calendar. But they want to rework the kickoff again so that there is more action on the kickoff because they're tired of the 90% of these things ending in touchbacks or what have you.
Which is a rule that they changed to generate that. Didn't they change the rules to make it so that this happens, like where most of the time people will just opt for the ball on the 25?
Yeah, because it's safer.
Yeah,
right, because it's safer. So the way that they're going to maintain the safety of the situation while hopefully adding some more excitement back into the play, because again, like who fucking cares about the kickoff anymore? It's just an excuse to come back from the action. They do the thing where it goes out of the back of the end zone, or they just take a knee and then they go to fucking commercial again. It's like, well, I could just leave for 10 minutes after the touchdown happens and I won't have missed anything. And it eliminates an important part of the game. Special teams fucking matters and has been a weapon in the NFL that I grew up watching anyway. But to bring that back, what they want to do is basically stop everyone from moving until the ball is either in the player's hands or has hit the ground on the other side of the 20. So like the lines of players, the only people who are allowed to move is going to be the kicker. And that whole line of 10 players who line up on either side of him, I think they'll be allowed to be closer. Like they'll be able to be up at the 40 or something like that, okay, instead of back with the... I didn't memorize.
Well, that works because it's the high speeds at which everyone is running into each other. So that's the problem.
The idea is to encourage the action. They will hold back the special teams players until that person has acquired the ball. But at the same time, like, does that actually necessarily
find out
end with less? Because they're still going to take off running at top speed. Right. The hope is to just that happens sooner. Yeah. Relative to the beginning of their acceleration, I guess, so that like they're not going at full speed when they smash into each other.
They won't be at full speed. They'll be still accelerating. It'll be fine.
When in the event that you want to perform an onside kick, you would have to like announce it because your line, it wouldn't make sense.
That was the other thing that's for years they've been trying to figure out how to make kickoffs more interesting and also work with onside kicks, and I don't know how they're going to square that circle in this case. I'm not.
Unless you say like
I didn't see anything about that.
I declare onside kick, our guys can run because we're going to try to go for it.
Right. But anyway, those are the football rules changes that I saw this week that were moderately interesting. Something else I saw is that LSU head basketball coach, women's basketball, her name is Kim Mulkey. She's this fairly intense person, as lots of women's basketball coaches are, not to stereotype, is threatening to sue the Washington Post because she says the paper has spent 2 years building a hit piece against her, which is presumably going to come out in the next couple of weeks. She's upset because right at the start of the tournament, the reporter contacts her and LSU and says, "Would you like to comment on this story that it's going to come out in 4 days?" And she's like, "I can't comment on something coming out in 4 days. I have a tournament to prepare for, and this is just a hit piece, and you're a bunch of slobs." This is a quote from her. Quote, "The Washington Post has called former disgruntled players to get negative quotes to include in their story. They're ignoring the 40-plus years of positive stories. But you see, reporters who give a megaphone to a one-sided, embellished version of things aren't trying to tell the truth. They're trying to sell newspapers and feed the click machine. This is exactly why people don't trust journalists and the media anymore. It's these kinds of sleazy tactics and hatchet jobs that people are just tired of." End quote, which is her way of saying that all the shit that's about to come out about her is terrible and true. Right? That is how she is expressing her upset about having been revealed in this fashion.
You will on occasion see this where somebody will get ahead of bad reporting, or incriminating information coming to light. But this is pretty strong. I'm interested to see it's almost kind of like, what was that? The Streisand effect? Who knows how this article would.
This is it's a pre-Streisand effect, right?
But who's to say? I don't know. Maybe the stories are horrible, and it's going to be making the rounds. But it's possible sometimes, if a story comes out on a very busy news cycle, it just kind of comes and goes, right? You just don't say anything. Maybe there'll be some tweet or two about it.
Do you see a picture of this woman? You think she's going to say nothing?
So yeah, I imagine
she's going to be just like water.
So
just
they would
let it all surround her. It's fine.
The Post would allow it to drop on a Thursday or Friday, whatever their next tournament game is, right? And then they would push it out with a push notification.
Yeah, it'll be during the when they're in the Final Four, maybe, if LSU makes it that far.
Right, and then. Yeah, it's an unpleasant news conference or two, but you just ride it the fuck out and you'd be fine. Abe, I'm sharing my screen here so that you can see her. I want you to use your predictive powers just based on your presumably first impression. This is the first time that I can recall having seen this woman. What do you think the bottom line is going to be on these allegations here? What are we looking at here in terms of what she does wrong?
I suspect she has demeaned players by way of sexual orientation or race, one of those two. Oh, you whatever. I think she has said something bad to some players, and she probably thinks I'm coaching them up or whatever, or she's got a distorted sense of that. I'm thinking somewhere along those lines. She didn't bury a body or anything like that. Or I don't think it's anything criminal. It's just something it looks bad.
All right, and I just want to make clear you're basing that entirely on the fact that she's a middle-aged woman, surprisingly busty, blonde, and screaming in the photo that we are looking at. That is what you're basing your prediction on.
Not entirely, but it doesn't help.
No, the styling, the full blowout, the powder blue suit with the white it's pink.
What are you doing
shirt.
wearing powder blue and pink as the head coach of the LSU Lady Tigers or whatever they call them down there? There's wrong colors there, Coach Kim.
She has her own style. She's above the team, I think, wasn't she the coach for Baylor? She was at some other school. She wasn't at LSU all this time.
I don't know. I don't follow.
But she's got a distinct, this person, she seems like she's angry a lot. But that was my take from the few times I've seen her.
All right, that's all I've got from Cast Iron Balls Sports. Let's open the WGAS NewsBag. Abe, real quick, I've got an Ask the Expert story here.
Ooh. Where's the expert?
You are the expert because you work for the man, as we all know.
Not right now. I'm off the clock.
Yes, that's right. You are not your job. God bless you. This is a headline from the AP. It says the IRS has 940,000 unclaimed tax refunds from 2020 that are about to expire. Is one of them yours? Abe, I have a couple of questions here.
Yes.
The first being, is this a trap? And more specifically, how is this not a trap?
So no, it is not. How dare you? The IRS would not set a trap most of the time. No, people have either paid in through their employer or some other mechanism, and there's money available for them to claim, and they just don't claim it. You have 3 years. So like April 15th, 2021 is when the 2020 tax return would have been filed. So 3 years from that is this upcoming April. After that, Uncle Sam.
In the middle
pockets
of a
the money.
global pandemic, we still only get 3 years, Abe.
3
We are
years.
still suffering the effects.
We're at the end of it. We're not in the middle anymore.
Yeah, I know. I mean, 3 years is very charitable. I mean, how much? I mean, unless you've been in a coma or something for 3 years.
I have a follow-up question for the expert. If I have not paid my taxes that I owe since 2020, I'm approaching the 3-year expiration date on my ability to get the money back from the federal government that I overpaid to them by accident. If I have managed to evade censure or capture by the IRS for not having paid taxes that I owe since 2020, is that also about to expire?
So interestingly, you have 3 years to claim the refund from us, but we have 10 years to collect anything you owe us. So it's
That's fair.
slightly
That
different
sounds
standard.
fair.
We get a little more runway to collect. And, if the information
Well,
is...
you're hard up.
Yeah. I mean, first of all, there's so many of you, than there are of there's only one IRS. You got to process all of these things. You got to give a little more leeway than 3 years. It's only fair.
I would like to point out, this is a quote from the AP. The federal tax collector said Monday that roughly 940,000 people in the United States have until May 17th to submit tax returns for unclaimed refunds for tax year 2020, which total more than $1 billion nationwide. And by the way, they go on to say that there are 93,400 people in Texas, 88,000 in California, 53,000 in Florida, 51,000 in New York. Those are the largest pools of people.
The largest states also, but yes.
Right, largest states. So presumably that tracks almost precisely
Right.
relative to population, right? So they not only do they know that there are nearly 1 million individuals, they know where they live. They know how much they owe them. And yet,
What is the point you're
they're
getting
the ones saying, you better watch out
This
because
has been
here's the deadline. The deadline approaches. You could just send them a check.
oh my god.
You have all of the information. You do not all that you're trying to do there, and this is why is this a trap is fundamental to this conversation here. Not in the way that like they're gonna slap the cuffs on you when you go to claim your tax refund, but all they're going to do with these 940,000 people is that those 940,000 people in filing will potentially expose themselves to IRS action by filing, right? Because the IRS has all of the information that they need to issue the refund. They just are hoping in some sick and twisted way that the individual who goes and files the taxes screws it up and clicks the wrong button on the fucking form that they're filling out on their thing, and now they've implicated themselves in some sort of goddamn crime. How is it not a trap, you bastard?
First of all, look at me carrying water for Uncle Sam. Generally, what happens is that people who find themselves in these situations, they haven't filed with the IRS. So there's no who are we sending it to? We don't really have any current information.
Your address is on your fucking W-2.
Right, but what I'm saying is so we have
send it to that
a
address.
tax account. There could be multiple addresses. What happen? I mean, there's going to be conflict. You'd be shocked. Again, it sounds like I'm carrying water for them.
It sure does sound like you're running PR for those bastards.
The profile for people in this situation is that they move a lot. There's no, I've been living here for 20 years. There's every 3 months.
Okay, so send a check, and if it doesn't reach them, it doesn't reach them.
Right.
Yeah, you can easily just fob this off on the next government agency, the United States Postal Service, and be like, look, you bums, you find them because we owe them $930.
Right. There's been many checks that have come back as return to sender. Anyway.
Good. Fine. They lose.
The opportunity is there. You have 3 years to claim. I think that's ample opportunity. This is not some sort of sinister plot. Hey, the money's there for the taking. Come and take it. It's your money. If you want it, come get it. That's the easiest way to go about it instead of guessing where you live.
It's ridiculous, and they
This
should.
was since my
First of all, you don't
job.
even have to send them a check. Put it in the fucking bank account that you absolutely
You have
know
that.
exactly.
What bank account? What are you
which
talking
bank
about? We don't
account.
keep track of that. How dare you?
Yeah, right.
Since I was 17 and I had my first job and I had to do taxes for the first time, it was like, here's this form that is from the government.
Yeah.
Now tell the government this form. And I was like, but they gave me the form. Why don't they just look at it
Yes.
and them figure it out?
Right.
It's like, oh, that's not how it works. And that's the day I said this is bullshit. Like, you are sending me the forms.
Right.
You compile it. Let me know.
Right. This is, I mean, your argument on steroids is my situation. I work for them, and I have to file this report. What do you mean? Like, the money directly
That
came
is funny.
to
I
me.
do like that. That feels
It's
good.
like, what, I have no other source of income. This is all you're doing. Like, what do you want from me? Like, this is outrageous.
I didn't file taxes a couple years in the early 2000s, I think, when I was delivering pizzas. Like, I just never fucking did it.
Yeah.
And, like, there's no way that I owe money, right? Like, I mean, it's just,
No,
it's.
you weren't making any money.
Wasn't making any money anyway. And I mean, to be fair, I probably wasn't claiming all my tips either by any stretch
What
of the
tips?
imagination,
Yeah.
right?
What tips?
Pizza Boys never made tips. That was all a lie to get us in the door and get us hooked on the affordable pizzas
What
that they
tips?
would feed
Show
us.
me the tips. There were no tips.
Back when I was in high school, and this is like in the late 90s, some of the older drivers who've been driving for a long time were not pleased with the use of credit cards, where they were becoming more and more commonplace, because it's like, oh, now we have to report all of this nonsense. Whereas in the past, when it's cash or whatever, like checks, or it was like easier to just kind of just pocket.
Or not.
Yeah.
Not cash.
Now it's almost impossible to like disguise things, right? People are ordering with their Apple Pay and other things. All the credit card tips are reported. Different world.
Anyway, IRS, bunch of bastards. We haven't done our taxes yet either this year. We'll get to it here eventually, I'm sure.
You get 3 years.
I'm not sure.
All right. Also in the WGAS NewsBag, I wanted to play a clip from Meet the Press. Abe, I don't know if you watched Meet the Press this weekend.
I did.
Good. I recommended that you did, because I was watching it and finding myself quite surprised by the goings-on. It's not often that I watch the Sunday morning shows, and my reaction is, oh my God, what's happening here? And I know I'm a big dork, and so I do react in that fashion more than most people do, but it was quite something to watch. They had Ronna McDaniel on in the first 20 minutes. The whole intro interview is with Ronna McDaniel, who fucking psychos will remember as the recently deposed head of the Republican National Committee, who once looked like a normal human being and now looks like someone who's hoping to one day be cast as porno Ivanka Trump in the upcoming.
Come on, that's not nice.
Is it not? Is it not?
Nice. He's not a nice person. He's never been nice.
Abe,
Don't try to rope me in.
is it true? In addition to being not nice? Because how else do you explain what's happened to her face in the last 5 years?
Is this not her face? Does she look significantly different like 5 years ago when
She's
she
got a lot of-
was
she's got a lot
Ronna
of
Romney?
Injections of some kind.
All right. I'm
Lots of
going to
Botox,
leave
lots of
this.
filler.
Are you kidding me? Look at those lips.
Lots of hyaluronic acid in the lips. It can all be dissolved.
It can be dissolved? Your lips?
Well, any of like the dermal filler stuff.
No
They
shit.
can just dissolve it, put it back to normal.
I have now Googled Ronna McDaniel 2012
Probably not for the first time.
and gone.
Yeah,
You're right.
it's
I
just-
did it
you're
earlier
seeing
this
lips.
afternoon. How dare you? She was like, don't worry, I'm going to make fun of somebody else's face later. It's going to be a dude, so this is fine. This is not sexist, clearly. I'm going to talk about Kevin McCarthy's face later in just a few minutes, so everyone relax, all right? She's like best case scenario Sarah Huckabee Sanders back in 2012. Brunette, kind of pretty if you catch her at the
That's
right
blonde.
angle.
You're looking at blonde hair.
Oh, that's a brunette with blonde highlights. Don't be ridiculous. Anyway, a fairly normal-looking human being. And then you go and you look at what's going on with her these days. And she has the weird, flat face of Ivanka Trump where everything is fucking stretched and weird. And then the enormous porn star OnlyFans lips that she has going on there, and nothing moves.
Regarding the cheek, is that not just makeup, or is there something more than?
There is makeup on her cheek.
There's makeup on her face, but
there's also dermal filler in it.
Yeah, that's not face in there. There's other stuff going on in there that's not face. Anyway, she doesn't look anything like herself. And my suggestion that she's hoping to one day be cast in the porno of as Ivanka Trump is exactly correct. The Trump
How would
porno
that be
parody.
a step up? You're doing.
Is that what you were going to say about?
No, it's not
okay.
why we're here. That was
Because
just an unfortunate aside
9:50
that I cannot
so you
help
need to
myself.
move it along.
Obviously, I am constitutionally incapable of not commenting on the faces of the people who show up on my Sunday shows, which is my only exposure to national news every
you were so
week.
shocked about?
No, I
so
knew that
move on
she.
to that now.
Look, all right, lady, relax. All right,
Have
so
your
they do
computer ready to go earlier.
They do the 20 minutes, and it's we're now 24 minutes into this. We got Chuck Todd's very disappointed face on our screen. Kristen Welker was there conducting the interview.
Why was he so disappointed?
Well, I'm about to play the clip here. It was a very weird struggle session type of interview that they had with Ronna McDaniel, where it was like, why should people trust you? And I'm watching this, like, not fully understanding why she's enduring this, like why she's putting up with it, because this was not introduced, or if it was, I missed it in the process of dealing with the annoying children and making my coffee, as Ronna McDaniel, newly hired NBC political analyst.
There was a blurb at the top, like, she's like Kristen Welker's like, we booked her before NBC News decided to hire her. I had no role in her hiring. This is a news segment that we're going to do now. This is not part of her being a paid member of our, like she did all of the preambles.
Right, because Welker conducted the interview as though this person was not a coworker of hers, right? Like, it was just, this is someone who no longer works for the RNC. Why should we take your shit seriously when you've spent the last 3 years telling absurd lies in service of Donald Trump's election fraud scam? Right. Which are valid questions, but also, like, why is Ronna McDaniel subjecting herself to this bizarre struggle session type thing? And I didn't have the full context in my head. And then they come back from break and go to the political panel here.
By the way, before you play the political panel discussion, was Chuck Todd brought in specifically for what he's about to say? Like, or was he?
I have to imagine that that's yes, because I think he still carries, obviously he carries more sway down there at NBC than Welker does, despite his being deposed from the seat there at Meet the Press, or self-deposed, I should say, from the seat there at Meet the Press. He stepped down. Also, talk about crystallizing a rather unfortunate thought that I've had for the last few months now. But his appearance here, and he's going to say things that I'm going to be critical of and find somewhat comical and silly. He is so much better at this than Kristen Welker is these many months later, and I don't know. There's a lot of infighting going on at NBC right now, and who knows where everything is going. But Kristen Welker is not the long-term solution to the interviewer chair there at Meet the Press.
She could be the David Gregory of this cycle.
Yeah, forget about her after 18 months or something. But all right, here's the response to the interview from the NBC political panel, the Meet the Press political panel here.
Let's dive right in. What were your takeaways?
Look, let me deal with the elephant in the room.
Yeah.
I think our bosses owe you an apology for putting you in this situation, because I don't know what to believe. She is now a paid contributor by NBC News. So I have no idea whether any answer she gave to you was because she didn't want to mess up her contract. She wants us to believe that she was speaking for the RNC when the RNC was paying for her. So she has credibility issues that she still has to deal with.
Yeah.
Is she speaking for herself, or is she speaking on behalf of who's paying her? Once at the RNC, she did say that, hey, I'm speaking for the party. I get that. That's part of the job. So what about here? I will say this. I think your interview did a good job of exposing, I think, many of the contradictions. And look, there's a reason why there's a lot of journalists at NBC News uncomfortable with this, because many of our professional dealings with the RNC over the last 6 years have been met with gaslighting, have been met with character assassination. So it is, that's where you begin here. And so when NBC made the decision to give her NBC News' credibility, you got to ask yourself, what does she bring NBC News? And when we make deals like this, and I've been at this company a long time, you're doing it for access. Access to audience. Sometimes it's access to an individual. And we can have a journalistic ethics debate about that. And I'm willing to have that debate. And if you told me we were hiring her as a technical advisor to the Republican convention, I think that would be certainly defensible. If you told me we're talking to her, but let's see how she does in some interviews and maybe vet her with actual journalists inside the network, see if it's a two-way, what she can bring the network. So I do think, unfortunately, this interview is always going to be looked through the prism of who is she speaking for, right? I think you did everything you could do. You got put into an impossible situation, booking this interview, and then all of a sudden the rugs pull out from under you. You find out she's being paid to show up. It's unfortunate for this program, but I am glad you did the best that you could, and that's why the three of us are on here to try to bolster that editorial independence.
Well, I appreciate that. Go ahead.
All right, I'll stop
Made
it
me
there.
very uncomfortable.
In one respect, my thought after watching it was, wow, Chuck, that was great. Like, good for you, man. That was good. Now do everybody else that you know. Right. Like that was my immediate follow-up thought was, okay, now look around the newsroom there or flip on MSNBC and do everyone else, because that you have successfully and correctly identified the feeling of watching network television news and cable television news, which is where and how and what can we believe that these people are saying that they sincerely, or that these are their sincerely held beliefs, and to what extent, if these are their sincerely held beliefs, are those being informed by a political ideology that they're either hiding from us or simply not acknowledging? Or to what extent are they simply continuing to act on behalf of their co-partisans? This is the same network, the same company, NBC Universal, that owns MSNBC, that employs Jen Psaki, who was the press secretary for Joe Biden, right? She hosts an entire hour of television, I think, on a weekly or nightly basis over there.
Sundays or something. Isn't it like a noon show?
Right. Jen Psaki was the press secretary for Joe Biden. Simone Sanders Townsend is the lady who worked for Kamala Harris. She also has a weekly show on MSNBC. These are not people with a reasonable amount of credibility in the way that Chuck Todd is angry about Ronna McDaniel not having, which I agree with, by the way. It's just curious to me, the people for whom that angst and incredulity is reserved for in this case. It's somebody who I agree is completely untrustworthy, is cannot be trusted to say true things, and it is ludicrous that a news gathering organization would pay her I think I saw the number of $350,000 a year as her contract to show up a few times a week and do political hits. I don't understand the appeal of that. You know,
I get that argument, but like she's not being brought in as a journalist or reporter, right? So like the argument about credibility, she's brought in as, I mean, like before her, Reince Priebus, you know, eventually whenever people leave these posts, like RNC chair, DNC chair, former politician, what have you, you find a job somewhere else. If you want to be in media, you get a job like at one of the cable outfits or the networks. If you want to make a lot of money, you go to the private sector somewhere and do whatever. But like,
right,
when they're being brought in,
Sean Spicer's on News Nation, I think is he on? Right, he's a News Nation guy. Sarah Huckabee Sanders is the governor of Arkansas. Are you going to not have? Is she verboten? Is she unacceptable to talk to in the future? Because like now she's a politician in her own right.
And the thing is, you know, this is a generation ago, but like George Stephanopoulos, who's now like a credible reporter, was working for the Clintons, right? For the Clinton White House, and he, after many years of going through the reps, kind of elevated himself to having that position. None of these recently, like, you know, like, I mean, I don't know what role they have in mind for Ronna McDaniel, but she's going to just be providing analysis, right? They'll bring her on. Maybe they'll have a talking head segment, like from the right, Ronna McDaniel, from the left, somebody else, and they kind of talk about some nonsense, right? So, like, in that very limited role, what's
as an
the
obvious punching bag, right? She's not going to do it. She's not going to do it well because she's not equipped to do it well, as we have seen over the course of her entire public life. No offense. Yes, all offense intended, I suppose. This is where the offense is intended, not with the commentary on your fucking face, for which I apologize. Is there anything to the evident hypocrisy that I'm complaining about here with Chuck?
I do think that, in order for that argument that Chuck, and maybe he was speaking on behalf of many others, I saw some articles about, like, there's all of this brouhaha, this turmoil internally at NBC News. And I think MSNBC News said something about, like, she's not going to come on the cable network. She may do work for the NBC, but not MSNBC. But if you're going to stand by that, you have to come up with a uniform standard and apply it evenly, right? Like, what is it about her that's different from, like, a press secretary? I mean, like, is it just like she did lie about the 2020 election? Like, is it like if you demonstrably lie about something, then you're out? But if you
a press secretary's job is to gaslight, and that's what he's complaining about, is the gaslighting. And I think it is despicable when press secretaries do it, and I think it's despicable when heads of the RNC do it. But her whole job is to blow sunshine where sunshine doesn't belong, right? It's to lie and be ridiculous about her side of things. It's her whole thing as the head of the RNC. That was her whole purpose. And to be fair to Psaki, that was her whole job as press secretary, was to avoid telling the truth about things that the Biden administration didn't want the truth told about, and to blow sunshine about things that didn't need to be. I mean, are some worse than others? Was Sean Spicer and Sarah Huckabee Sanders, I think, obvious, and especially who is the other one? McEnany or something like that, the Fox News blonde, who was also a press secretary under Trump.
Kayleigh McEnany,
Yeah, arguably maybe even the worst of the bunch in terms of the ridiculous lies that they would tell. But that was like, you accept that, right? Like Karine Jean-Pierre tells lies every single day in the press room and gaslights like fucking crazy. Like, and
she'll probably find a job after, right? I mean, like next year, whenever the second term or when this term ends, like she'll probably find work.
Of course she will. Yes, she's a photogenic, telegenic, relatively young woman who's going to definitely find work on television if she wants it after this. He's identified something that is, like I said, both 100% true and also pervasive across the entire news media landscape. And it speaks to me at the moment because I am in the process of trying to write what might turn into fucking 40,000 words about this subject, about the fracturing of the way that we get news and the just disaster for what that means in terms of our ability to parse reality. But while I enjoyed the momentary craziness of it, at the same time, it feels like if this is his sincerely held belief about this one individual, and he's completely incapable of seeing how it might apply to literally everyone else in the building that he works with. Like, I don't know. I guess you just have to some extent, he does live in a certain kind of bubble that is functionally impenetrable, and that somehow these Trump people, and I agree that they are, like, I'm with him. These people are sort of anathema to the project of telling truth in a way that Psaki winkingly was not, right? Like, she can tell the lie and you sort of know she's playing the game in the right way, whereas these people are just seemingly slamming a door on reality in a way that the other ones aren't. And for some people, and I know this is hard for people to understand, for some people, telling ridiculous, completely absurd lies about the world is less offensive than trying to sneakily blow sunshine where it doesn't actually belong. And I know that's hard for people, right? But they just do not appreciate the obfuscation. Whereas if you're willing to just tell the lie and stand by it, they're like, yeah, I have more respect for that than I do this sort of slithery sliminess that you typically see in the White House press room, for example.
If Chuck Todd was not there to do his little spiel. Would Kristen Welker be getting a lot of flack right now? Like, do you think, like, oh my God, like you just let this person come on and like as a result you lost credibility? I wonder, like, if Chuck Todd was kind of like there just to kind of provide some cover for his successor, right? To say like
his
hand
picked successor, no less. Yeah, I don't know.
Right, because it just seemed like a very like I'm gonna come here and I'm gonna say the thing that you can't say because you're the moderator for this program. But yeah, I don't know. I think like if you're going to apply a standard, you need to kind of clearly define it and then say what is the line, because politicians and people in politics are going to shade the truth, which has been acceptable for a long time, but outright lies, like maybe that's not the acceptable. I mean, just draw the line there, like, and that's fine. But like, you need to kind of clearly state what it is that's not acceptable, and then apply that.
Right. All right. Also in the WGAS NewsBag, and we'll jump over to Face the Nation here in a minute so I can make fun of Kevin McCarthy's face as well. The Republican majority in the House shrunk by one more member over the weekend. Was this announced Friday or Saturday? I'm not sure. I was busy doing PTO things, as I mentioned earlier, and then baseball things. I think it was Friday afternoon.
It was Friday.
And
I was at work.
who was the individual? It wasn't Ken Buck. Ken Buck is already
Gallagher.
leaving Colorado. Yeah, Gallagher from Indiana? No.
Colorado. I believe.
India.
Also from Colorado?
Actually, no, I'm sorry. Or is it Wisconsin? Let's see. Yeah, Wisconsin.
There you go. Yes, Mike Gallagher of Wisconsin. Sorry. That brings the total down to 217 to 213 with a couple of seats still to fill in special elections.
And what's different about Gallagher is that he's leaving, like, it's effectively like in late April, and based on the state law, that seat is going to remain vacant until the November election. So it's not like other places where it's filled or there's like a special election to kind of complete the term. Basically, there's not going to be a Republican seat or a Democratic seat for that district until November.
Right, unfilled, just empty, and therefore just one less vote, so that the wiggle room for Speaker Mike Johnson is even smaller than it was before, and we are one step closer to my most outlandish prediction of the year coming true, which is that Hakeem Jeffries will become the Speaker of the House before the year is out. And then immediately following up on that news, Marjorie Taylor Greene announced that she was going to file a motion to vacate the speakership against Mike Johnson, the first such motion against him since he became the speaker. This doesn't appear to have very much momentum at the moment, but it was predictable given the fact that rather than passing an omnibus budget bill this year, they've done these, what are they calling them? Not mini buses, but they're basically mini buses. Maybe
they kind of split it into two, right?
Oh, it's like half a dozen.
agencies.
It's like two different sets of half a dozen different packages that they're ramming through in order to fund the government, rather than one omnibus budget. Johnson's hope was that he had gotten enough for Republicans on these different minibuses to satisfy the crazy parts of his caucus, and apparently it wasn't quite good enough for Ms. Greene from Northwest Georgia there. But it's not clear that that's got a bunch of momentum. But it does point to the idea that at any moment, one of these Republicans, with just a couple of pals, could get together and overthrow Mike Johnson. And then the question, you don't even need anyone else to go, because if Mike Johnson is like, well, if you don't want me as speaker, I'm not going to stick around in the House any longer, so I'll just leave also. Then we're really down to it, and the Republicans.
You know, your ridiculous theory of like the flip before the elections is like now like one of the headlines on FoxNews.com.
Oh yeah,
like it's like they could flip before November. I still think that's like unlikely, but I mean, I can't explain why all of these Republicans are leaving early. I understand that they're not going to run again, but like for them to say, I want out now, like I don't understand what the advantage is for that. Why not just run out? I mean, it's only like 8 more months or whatever. Like, what's the hurry? I'm
reminded of my time in the working world as a pizzaman, and when I would I would be there. And as long as I had one person to rely on and feel like I had a human connection with,
For a long time, that was Abe.
it was an endurable thing for me. Yes, for a long time, it was Abe. And then Abe was gone, and I was adrift. And I needed to find another person in whom I could essentially, it's not a healthy thing to do probably, but you pile all of your faith in humanity into that one person. They become the representative of all that is good in human beings, because every time that fucking phone rings or the order comes in on the internet, or you deal with another person who's trying to call out work, or another employee who did a shitty job or did something wrong, and you have to somehow massage it with the customer and massage it with the employee, because you can't fucking afford to lose the employee, even though they should be out the fucking door fucking 40 times already. That ruins your ability to see the good in people. And so you have to have one person. There has to be at least one who, even if they're not currently at work, you can be like, at least that person exists in the world and is here at Domino's. Because it's not enough to have your lovely wife at home.
Clearly.
Taking care of the child that you love with all of your heart. You need somehow some connection there in the building that makes it all endurable in some fashion. When it's not Abe, maybe it's Brandon or Tyler or Mike D or Naveed or Tony the Tyler or any number of different people through the Kinsey and then as you get further and further down the list, it's like, well, like, I guess, like, Pessin, I can live with him for today. Like, he makes me want to do mass violence, mostly to myself, most of the time. But, like, for today, that's who I've got. So we'll just talk baseball, and we'll laugh at the bad people, and it's gonna be fine. We'll get through the next fucking hour and 45 minutes together, and we're gonna be all right. But when you don't have that person, and there are times when you're in between people that you can pile your faith in humanity into, it's just dread, right? It's just everything is just coming down on you, and it is darkness and more darkness and hatred and pizza and so much pizza, and you don't know how you can possibly show up to work the next day. You don't know how you can possibly not just walk out the door right now and never look back. You cannot imagine how it's possible that that's not what you're doing this very moment. And I think that's what a lot of Republican congressmen are dealing with at the moment. That's my theory about what's going on in Congress.
That would explain it, yeah, because they're like, I want out immediately. I can't stomach this.
Yeah. All right. Kevin McCarthy was insisting on Face the Nation that Mike Johnson has nothing to worry about, that despite the noise that is being made by various people, that Mike Johnson's going to be just fine. Everything is sunshine and lollipops in the Republican caucus, of which Kevin McCarthy is very pleased to no longer be a part.
Well, when you were in Washington, you used to deal with Marjorie Taylor Greene, who filed this motion to vacate, to oust the Speaker. She's blaming Johnson for everything from chaos at the border. She says she's starting this process to end the chaos that Americans are living in every single day. Do you endorse her tactic? What's the game here?
Look, the one thing I've always found, when you sit down with a member and talk to them, find out what their concerns are, especially when it's based upon policy, you can solve that problem. And I watched that with Marjorie, from the vote to Speaker to the vote for the Fiscal Responsibility Act. There's times she was a difference of opinion, and you sit down and find common ground. Matt's case was much different. It's about a personal thing that he had done, and that's what he was trying to get something illegally stopped. This is not the case here. So I would not be afraid of a motion to vacate. This is about
Look at the
policy.
file photo of Kevin McCarthy, all right? You can see a human, normal face there. Now, clearly, I think a face that has had a little bit of work done. He's had the injections or what have you. But that's just in the file photo there of Kevin McCarthy. And then we're going to see...
By the way, is this the fault of these fancy new TVs? You know, because all of these people don't need to mess up their faces for my 13-year-old television.
No, it's not because of the TVs.
I'm hearing they're getting so clean and clear that they can see everything.
First of all, don't blame the TVs ever. Also, it's not the TVs. It's just the world.
All right, look at Kevin McCarthy's face, though, when he starts to talk.
That's upper lip Botox there.
Nothing is moving on his face except the bottom lip that opens enough for the noise to come out, and nothing else moves around the eyes or the cheeks or even the upper lip barely has any ability to move up and down anymore.
That's what's weird.
Stop doing this to your faces, you psychos.
But people are continuing to do it. Would be like people get face tattoos for some reason, but people are doing this. So like there must be, maybe this is a desired effect. Like, I don't want any movement. I don't want any jiggle.
What happens is you do it, and then everyone says, "Oh my God, you look great," and so they do more.
That's because it's super offensive to do what I'm doing now, which is to tell the truth about their stupid fucking faces, right? Nobody wants to be the asshole who tells their friend.
Because people can say nothing.
What the fuck did you do to your face? Yeah, they could say nothing, but like then it's weird to say nothing when somebody's like obviously done some shit to their face.
Because you're not listening.
If Abe showed up with a giant tribal tattoo over one side of his fucking face, I would be like, what the fuck did you do to your face, Abe?
It doesn't start there, though. It starts with just a little. And a little looks good. Your girlfriend Maggie has a little. She looks good. The problem is someone says, you look really good. And then then it starts to wear off. Then they go back and they're like, yeah, more of the thing that made me look good. And that's when it becomes too much because it's highly addictive and people overdo it. Don't you fucking try to tell me she doesn't have something going on in her face. She just has a good one. She's doing it right.
Maggie looks great. That's all.
Of course she does. You think that's magic?
All right. Then, according to your theory, it's going to go too far eventually. And
No.
I will be disappointed.
It doesn't always. The ones you don't notice, the ones you think have nothing, it's just they're doing it right. They're not overdoing it.
Yeah. Anyway.
So is the biggest telltale sign the lips, or like you can notice it
whenever on the women? It's a lot of different things, but it's usually a complete lack of movement.
Lack of movement, and then on the women it's the lips. On the dudes, it's
the lip injections is a thing.
Yeah, and he's got weird like eye
or a puffy
fillers or something going on there. I don't know.
So like you can't see on the camera here, but I have these like jowly smile lines that I didn't used to have. My face used to be up here. It used to be way better, but now it sags down. So instead of a facelift, you can do filler, where they fill in this saggy bullshit.
Gotcha.
So they fill it in. So so it smooths it out, but it makes it puffy. So if you'd never met me, you wouldn't think, oh, she has a puffy face. But since you know what I look like, and you know what I would have looked like before, it's a thing.
Interesting.
Kevin McCarthy, someday you are going to be dead and buried in the ground. Your physical form will waste away, and all that will be left are the stupid silicone injections sitting high upon your cheekbones.
That's why they go overboard, because it goes away. You have to go and do it again. And then they say more, make it last longer, make it more noticeable.
How often do they have to go in? Is this like
every couple
once
of
a year
months?
thing?
Every couple of months.
Wow.
Anyway,
every couple of months.
Clearly
2 to 6.
Clearly not sexist or misogynistic in any way is my criticism here.
You are that too. You can be both things.
What is this, a Chuck Todd situation?
This is a Chuck Todd situation.
I'm not doing the Chuck Todd situation. I'm casting my critical net to all comers.
If the pressure is being applied to Ronna McDaniel and Kevin McCarthy, others are probably feeling the same pressure. I'm sure Kristen Walker at some point goes, I got to do this thing too. Everybody's doing it, and to keep up appearances on this
keep
HD
up
television.
Appearances? It doesn't look good. No one thinks it looks good. Ronna McDaniel once looked like a normal human being, and now she looks, as I said before, I don't have to repeat it, but I will. She looks like an Ivanka Trump double in the shitty porno parody version of the White House.
You're comparing to them.
10/20.
they look normal 10 years ago when they're younger. They're a younger, normal-looking person. Maybe they don't like
get old. It's fine to get old.
Nope.
Yeah.
It's fine to get old. Abe, it's now time to play a little bit of Strassman. We're gonna we got a twist on the Strassman though, Abe, because this is did CBS News' senior national news correspondent Mark Strassman get off a good one, but this is going to be Strassman on vacation edition. So I have cast the net wide across the vast CBS correspondent universe in order to find someone who is actually working these days, since Strassman has not produced new content in the last 15 or 17 days or something like that. And I have good news. We're going to play, we'll call it like Strassman Legacy Edition, since Strassman's not here. The headline for this piece is Shop Owner Accidentally Orders 720 Chocolate Easter Eggs for Scottish Island with 500 people. Now, without knowing or having heard this before, and I don't want you to render judgment on whether or not a good one was gotten off, I'm going to set the over-under, and I know the answer here because I've watched this report. It's 94 seconds. I've watched it twice. I'm setting the over-under at 3.5 good ones attempted. Now, based on that headline, shop owner accidentally orders 720 chocolate Easter eggs for Scottish Island with 500 people. Over under 3.5 good ones attempted. Abe, what is your guess?
Pound the over. Are you kidding me? Come on.
All right, here we go.
A not-so-sweet surprise washed up in a tiny town on Scotland's Orkney Islands, leaving local businessman Dan Ap David with egg on his face.
And I thought just 80 individual eggs were coming, but in reality, I'd ordered 80 cases, so that was 720 eggs.
You weren't hopping mad when you found out the mistake.
I think I probably was a little bit angry with myself.
It's no joke. Dan ordered more chocolate eggs than the island's roughly 500-strong population, and they came with a no-return policy.
Have they already come up with any cool nicknames for you?
I've heard the Eggman of Orkney.
Well, you got 7 kids. Ordering hundreds of Easter eggs, they must have been thrilled.
My wife was sympathetic. She was like, oh, it's okay, we all make mistakes. But I could see the glee in the kids' eyes thinking, it's going to be a good Easter this year.
All the excitement brought global attention to the remote island, which sits in the North Atlantic.
You are kind of, the Easter Bunny's helper because you're bringing all this stuff into the island.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. And I've obviously helped more than usual this year.
Are they flying off the shelves?
Yeah, literally. I think we're down to about our last 50 now, other than the 100 that were given away. So I'm going to have to sweet talk the wholesalers and try and get a few more.
Dan's raffling off 100 eggs to support a local charity, turning a delicious disaster into an excellent opportunity.
Oh, my God. He went back to that well?
CBS News, London.
Hey, did CBS News London correspondent Ian Lee get off a good one in the fashion of Mark Strassman?
Do you remember there was an episode of South Park where the internet was down and like Randy Marsh and family, they went out west.
Might remember that
towards California way, and then like there was like a FEMA place where there's like a computer, and then he like jizzed all over it because he I guess went without for too long.
Yes.
Like I feel like this Ian guy, he got the call like Strassman is gone. And he just went to town. Holy shit. I mean, 90
That's
seconds.
The most beautiful metaphor I've ever heard. This guy's good ones are jizz.
Ian, my man. This is not something that just anyone can do.
I mean, apparently
I don't think you understand the power. The sorts of dangerous power.
I think he was really drunk with the power.
You're dealing with here.
Jizzed it all over the place.
Yeah. You don't want to overwhelm the segment, especially a short segment like that. I mean, come on. But 6.
A not-so-sweet surprise with egg on his face.
You weren't hopping mad when you found out the mistake.
It's no joke. All the excitement turning a delicious disaster into an excellent opportunity.
6 attempted good ones, Abe. Did Ian Lee, CBS News London correspondent, get off a good one?
I will give it to him. A little overboard, but yeah.
Strassman gets off a good one. You're hungry for a good one is the problem here. We've gone without for too long, speaking of. And you are far too generous. Abe, that's not all. We're going to do another one.
Oh, nice.
Tonight, we visit a hotel taking hospitality to new heights by going low with the deepest room on Earth. And as CBS's Ian Lee shows us, even getting there is part of the experience.
Oh, Ian Lee again.
The Welsh countryside offers stunning vistas. Rugged peaks frame sweeping landscapes. From the Deep Sleep Hotel, you'll see none of that. But it's no less spectacular.
You want it nice and snug, so not too tight that you will give yourself a headache.
At check-in, guests get a hard hat, headlamp, boots, and a mountain guide. An opportunity that takes deep sleep to a whole new level. Ian Lee, CBS News, underground in Wales.
Did CBS News London correspondent Ian Lee get off a good one?
No, but that is a very interesting hotel. I mean, 4 hours in.
Ooh, sorry, Mark. Try again next time. Yeah, I'm only playing that because I knew Lori would get a big kick out of that hotel.
I'm annoyed. Why don't I live in a cave? It would be so much better. You know, it wouldn't matter in a cave is daylight savings time. Just fucking dark.
I believe what we've learned here today is that despite Abe's endorsement of what Mr. Ian Lee has done, that getting off a good one is not for the fucking average, overly handsome amateur and should not be attempted. And Strassman, you need to get back to work. I have rolled the dice. We're going to play the Billboard Hot 100 game, in which we attempt to prove the degradation of the culture by comparing a Billboard Hot 100 hit of today against a hit from a randomly selected year between 1983 and 2012. Because, of course, that's roughly when we got old. But also, the last time that Party Rockers LMFAO appeared on the Billboard Hot 100 chart. I want to issue a quick sort of mini mea culpa for failing to recognize last week that Brian Ferry, as pointed out in an email from my father, is the guy behind Roxy Music. He was the lead singer for Roxy Music, which is a very important band of the 70s that I had tried to get into in the past because Roxy Music basically invented the 1980s in like 1973.
Well, why'd they do that?
Yeah. And the thing that I don't like about a lot of 80s music, actually, is sort of attributable to Roxy Music, which is...
So that was the worst person that we had last week.
One of the most important... When you go and you look at, like, artists of the 80s and their most important formative influences, they're all like, oh, yeah, it's Roxy Music. So, of course, for years ago, I went back and tried to get into Roxy Music, and I just could never fucking do it because
it's shit.
It sounds just like that Brian Ferry song that we listened to last week. It's like it's just too sentimental, and I just don't like that sound. I want my 80s music in particular to be much weirder and just generally stranger. And
I just want mine to be thrash metal, apparently, because that's the only good thing that happened in the 80s.
But anyway, it was sloppy of me not to recognize that Brian Ferry comes from Roxy Music.
No, I have more respect for you now than I did last week.
How typical. Only my ignorance is what gets my wife going about me.
I'm not getting going. Calm down.
I have rolled the dice. We are going to spot number 77 on the Billboard Hot 100 chart, and our year is our 15th year in the program, which puts us in the dead center. Which year exactly? I always get it wrong by one. 1997, I think, is correct. But first, we will explore the Billboard Hot 100 for this week. Number one this week is Ariana Grande, which has a debut at number one there. It's going to be a lot of scrolling to get to number 77, I'm afraid. Doesn't bode well.
It was like 4 scrolls.
Morgan Wallen.
Have we had that already?
I don't know. Spin You Around, parentheses, 1/24, end parentheses, is the name of this song.
What's that, like January 24th something?
That's how I read it. Or 1/24 of an inch?
I don't know. Also, the name is familiar to me, but I don't know what genre we're headed towards.
1 hour out of 24 hours. Spin you
Morgan
around
Wallen's
like
the
a
guy
clock.
There it is. Yeah. But Morgan Wallen, wasn't he the one that got into trouble for, like, saying something wrong? He was, like,
people say wrong things, you know?
Like the country music guy. No. Very popular country music guy.
Had to leave the duck woods to make this, is what it says at the bottom of the video at the moment.
I've been looking at you from across the room. About time I got
Jesus, this fucking guy's voice.
Hey, you might tell me, boy,
Think faster.
no.
Something can happen faster. Just speed it up.
Let's see here.
But hell, what can it hurt? 'Cause I just wanna spin you round and round this dance floor. Get you drunk on love like mine. Might wind up, steal a couple kisses. Get your digits if I can find a right line. But you don't do feelings. But baby, if you're willing, I'ma do my
It is
best.
way
Change
better
your
than
life.
double
The way you
speed.
stole my heart last time. Girl, it ought to be around.
See, I told you.
Got it.
Everything was just too slow.
All right. That song sucks ass. As my father also pointed out in his email, we don't have to prove the degradation of the culture. The proof of the degradation of the culture is the fact that, like, half the shit that we play in this
That's what I
game
said.
is country music.
I said that a couple weeks ago.
You did. Also, something else that actually I am even more ashamed that I didn't pick up on last week is the one that we chose, the 23 by whatever that fucking dude's name was. It sounds just like the Everlast song from our Ute that we might run into in this game.
Is it Chase Beckham?
Yeah, Chase Beckham. Very good. I'm going to assume you're referring to notes because otherwise, fuck.
Well, I went to California and I had me a band, and we played in all the bars and all the southern lands. We played all night and we drank for free, all of my boys and me. Now I'm 23 and there ain't nobody who can drink it like me. God forbid you ever had to wake up to hear the news. Then you really might know what it's like to have to lose. Then you really might know what it's like.
But the Everlast song, the What It's Like song, which was a big hit in roughly 1997, which is where we're headed.
By the way,
very similar
I'm going to just get ahead of this and just say I'm going to choose the 1997 song Sight Unseen. Just whatever.
You never know. It could be that awful shit we listened to. I mean, no, it couldn't, because that was the 80s and nothing ever that bad ever came out.
It could be some
after
very
the 80s.
bad R&B, though.
It could be bad R&B, but it would be better than this. Abe's right.
I don't know.
The Macarena was already gone by 97, right? It couldn't be like on the way down. Was that 95? When did the peak?
Morgan Wallen or Whalen at double speed, though, might be better than a bad R&B song at normal speed. So we have to factor that in as well. You don't know. All right. We will now find the Billboard Hot 100 for this week in April, or March rather, of 1997. I'm already into April in my mind for some reason.
Speaking of Puff Daddy, here we go.
Oh, did it?
No, this is the wrong week. I apologize for getting you excited.
Trouble for Puff Daddy.
We're going to the week of Sunday, March 23rd. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah,
Puff Daddy at number one.
Sex trafficking.
Puff Daddy was
stuff.
raided in Florida for...
by Homeland Security? What's their angle?
Whoops.
Yeah, you don't like that. Also, wasn't he one of the ones who got a bunch of last-minute lawsuits filed against him as the New York they gave bonus time because of Me Too for all of these expired things, and then a bunch of people filed lawsuits, and I think that he had, like, on the last day, he had, like, a few different ones come against him.
Yeah.
All right.
Shouldn't procrastinate these things.
To put yourself in the zeitgeist of end of March 1997.
I never left. Be serious.
We have Puff Daddy at 1, Wannabe by the Spice Girls at 2, and Jules' Foolish Games at number 3, which is just an incredible top 3.
No, and you keep going.
Drew Hill, Toni Braxton, Babyface, Celine Dion, Monica, Foxy Brown, and R. Kelly round out the top 10, which, again, that's a lot of fucking garbage R&B in the top 10. But at least there's some interesting stuff in there, too. There's Savage Garden, Abe's favorite. There we go. At 40, we have The Prodigy with Firestarter. Can a band as weird and cool as The Prodigy have a top 40 hit? And it is only in the 1990s. It is something that is completely impossible today. Prodigy was great. Oh, yeah. White Town, the Your Woman song there at number 42. That's a great song. Eric Clapton. The Boss is here in the top 50. Good stuff here. The Freshman by the Verve Pipe, another great song. Better Than Ezra, as one expects to find in 1997. Better Than Ezra
is so good. One of the biggest fights we've ever had was about your
whether or not Better Than Ezra is
Better Than Ezra enough.
Yeah. Number 70. Oh, Jesus Christ. Number 77 is Kenny G with a song called Havana, or Havana, rather. Oh, man.
It'll be fine. It'll be fine. Just play the song.
Oh, that's tough.
Tell your YouTube that you would please like to listen to Kenny G again.
I have long ago humiliated myself to the algorithms and will forever be paying the price. And we missed Rod Stewart there at 79. That would have been at least...
Which one?
If We Fall in Love Tonight. Some very bad Rod Stewart.
No, I'd rather listen to this.
We've got the instrumental and the interpretive dance going on as he plays his... Is it a special clarinet or is it just a clarinet?
I don't know. This is so inoffensive.
How did this even make it to the top 100?
Adult contemporary radio. Uh-oh. Here we go.
Did you not feel like a beat was going to drop? A beat was always going to drop. Just 1,000 years better than that other thing.
Look at his fucking face, though. Every time they cut to his face.
What do you want his face to be doing? He's playing a clarinet.
This smug fuck.
He can't help. That's just what he's playing a clarinet. This is great.
I feel like
this is great. I could listen to this all day.
He's using this person of color tap dancer to tell a story in a way that feels appropriative to me.
Maybe the person of color tap dancing is using Kenny G to tell a story. It's racist for assuming that guy's not in charge.
Look at that smug fuck.
He's playing
I'm
clarinet.
the racist. All right, Abe, that's enough Kenny G, I think.
Great.
Abe, Lori has obviously chosen the clarinet soloist.
That was fucking great.
With the dance hall beat thrown on behind it. Who do you choose?
By process of elimination, I'm going with Kenny G.
All right. I refuse to participate because my vote is meaningless.
I was wonderful. I would listen to that tomorrow I'm going to go put Kenny G radio on at work, and it won't last long, but I'll like it because it won't be garbage top 40 now.
That was tough. Oh man, number 82. Number 82 was "Fly Like an Eagle" from Space Jam by Seal. I don't
like that song.
Which would have been way better.
I don't like that song.
Smashing Pumpkins there in the 80s as well. Oh, and King Nothing by Metallica down there at number 100.
Okay.
That would have been better.
All right, well.
You've been listening to Cast Iron Brains, a podcast with Bob and Abe. Find the show on Substack, brainiron.substack.com, which has not released any new content since Cast Iron Brains of last week, and I will not explain further. The opening and closing themes of the show were composed by Mark Gillig. Tetramermusic.com, Tetramer music.com. Abe, slim pickings at the theaters this week, although there was a wide release big studio picture, I do believe, that made it out there. Did you join the hordes and make it to the theaters this weekend?
I did. I went to the theaters twice last week. The first movie was Ghostbusters, Frozen, Empire, whatever the hell it's called. I didn't care for it. I don't think I was ever a big Ghostbusters fan, but you know,
there was one good Ghostbusters movie. It was the first one, and all the others were subpar outings, including even Ghostbusters 2 did not hold up. I mean, I loved it as a child, of course, because it was Ghostbusters, but I think Ghostbusters, the original, is the only really good movie out of the whole bunch.
Right. So I did not care for it. It was fine, but whatever. Not a good movie. But last week they were doing a 25th anniversary showing at the Dolby big screen of The Matrix. It came out 25 years ago around this time. And I go watch it, full house, everybody's enjoying it. The movie holds up, it's great. The first one, I didn't see the second or third, and the fourth one sucked. So I'm just going to assume there's only one Matrix. Everybody can just cleave off those other three movies after. But this is a complaint that I have with my local theater. I don't know when the Abyss re-showing happened, but they screwed that up. Like they didn't have something. Like they couldn't play the movie.
And you blew your free Coke also, right? You got the Coke and then didn't even get the movie?
Swindled out of my free Coke, but I was like, okay, fine. And then now this is their next opportunity to do this. Because they did Titanic without any issue. They did The Godfather without any issue. But then there was a problem with The Abyss.
Only 3-hour-long movies then.
With The Matrix, this is like 80% of the way in. This is like where Neil's like, oh shit, I'm like God. Like he's like figuring it out. Like,
right.
And the movie just, the whole screen just goes pitch black and the lights go on. And then some like 14-year-old kid comes out. I'm sorry. Oh shit, that shouldn't have happened. We're working on getting a fix, like going through the spiel, like, and he's saying this not in a confident way, and I just got up and left. I mean, I know how the story ends, so I'm going to stick around for you to figure out what went wrong.
Oh, that's a goddamn shame. You missed like 90% of the reason. Well, not 90%, but a significant
the opening of that movie is so good.
The opening is spectacular, but one of the main reasons to go see this on the big screen and with the thumping sound system is to get to the final 30 seconds of the movie and then the closing credits starting with the Rage Against the Machine song kicking in. Like, it's just one of the all-time great smash to the fucking loud part of the song moments at the end of a movie. And that's a goddamn shame that you didn't get to experience it.
Yeah, I was thinking of writing a sternly worded email to them. Hey, what the fuck? This keeps happening at this location. Figure it out.
I know you're out there. I can feel you now. I know that you're afraid. You're afraid of us. You're afraid of change. I don't know the future. I didn't come here to tell you how this is going to end. I came here to tell you how it's going to begin. I'm going to hang up this phone, and then I'm going to show these people what you don't want them to see. I'm going to show them a world without you. A world without rules and controls, without borders or boundaries. A world where anything is possible. Where we go from there is a choice I leave to you.
looking good is what that is.
Still leaning towards the blue pill, though. It's all this.
Fair. It's fair.
I've seen some
me too.
Some pushback against the Matrix on the Twitter discourses recently about how actually it isn't that good, and you olds are all deluding yourselves. And
really?
It makes me want to do a genocide. Is what it makes me want to do.
You just slide over to the other side of Twitter where people don't say shit like that.
Is it just to get a ride out of people? I mean, that is an objectively good movie. I mean, because the other ones didn't work as well. I mean, the fourth one, again, I did not see the second or third one, but like the first one just worked. It worked so well that I was like, I'm not watching any more of this. Like, you're going to just screw it up somehow. Just like leave it as is. It worked exactly right.
It is. It's a spectacular movie. And another aspect of it that I think goes unappreciated, because the other end of it is like, did the Matrix predict everything about the world? And we've had this conversation before in philosophy class with Abe about the experience machine and like whether or not you'd plug in. And I'm certainly not the first person to have this thought, obviously. But the Neuralink thing that's been in the news this week about the paralyzed kid who got the chip implanted into his brain, and now he like can play chess on the internet and do various other tasks by interfacing with this chip that's in his brain. And God knows what's going to happen to him long term. But, it makes for a neat story in the moment. Something about that story made me think that it is ludicrous to imagine that this like sort of transhuman future where we become some sort of evolved species that interacts with our technology in some sort on a biological or chemical level in the fashion that this kid is becoming one of the first examples of, doesn't tell the story of the extent to which we have already become, that the phone is already such a meaningful extension of our consciousness and the way that the world is mediated for us and the way that we experience the world, that the question where I ask you, would you plug into the experience machine, is an utter absurdity in the face of the fact that you walk around with the supercomputer in your pocket all day and stare at screens for the vast majority of the way that you interact with the world. Like, yes, we have all already plugged into the experience machine. What are you talking about? Right. That is life as we know it. And that is a question that has already been answered.
But it'll take some time before it's like fully that. I mean, like, the Apple Pro thing is kind of like trending towards that, where like you have this other world that you're seeing the world through. You can kind of like play with whatever's.
I don't know. I don't like this intermediate. Just get fully in my head, please.
They're gonna get there, yeah.
Fully. Put me in goo. Slide a thing into my head. I want to know how to crochet.
That's your kung fu, is crocheting.
Yes, that's my point.
In the real world,
I don't want much. A simple, easy life where I don't even have to eat.
Anyway,
it sounds wonderful.
Was that it? Those are the two movies you went. Yeah. You didn't go see the Devil on the Television movie that I've seen so much about on the internet this week. No. Have you seen the trailers for that one?
There's just like nothing good. I'm looking at what's like coming up next. Like there's a Godzilla King Kong movie. It's like there's like nothing.
When is this supposedly serious Civil War movie coming out?
Oh, that's like in a few weeks. Oh, that should be good.
I can't take it seriously. I know that everyone else seems to be, but
this Ghostbusters movie coming out in March is proof, obviously, that they don't think it's going to make a ton of money, right? Just based on the release date. Like, this should be a summer tent pole. Yeah, but like the hope, I think, when they make one of these is like a summer tent pole, $750 million, $1 billion kind of movie, right? Not happening with this particular franchise. I went back to March of 1997, as we sometimes do here for the Box Office Mojo Hot 100 game. The number one movie this week in 1997 was the wonderful Liar Liar, starring Jim Carrey.
Look at that.
One of my favorite movies.
I watched the documentary about the dark side of Nickelodeon, like in the 2000s, with all the sexual
Quiet
assault.
on Set. Yeah, I did catch some of that.
Yes.
That was crazy.
It's like fucked up.
Yeah.
It's not the kind of thing I want to watch, which is why Lori watched it elsewhere this weekend.
I watched it with my friend who has fun with me, and we go to nice dinners and watch depressing documentaries.
What did I do? I watched on Friday night. Tried to write and watched a couple of news shows, which was a silly thing to do, but that's what I did. And then on Saturday, I watched a couple of episodes, the first 2 episodes of Netflix's 3 Body Problem, which is a new sci-fi show based on a book that I read a couple of years ago.
How was that? I've heard mixed things about it.
I'm giving it a thumbs up for now. I have enjoyed the first couple of episodes. This is by the Game of Thrones fellas, the
Davids,
the David Benioff and D.B. Weiss, I think, are what their official production names are, along with a guy who wrote some nighttime soap, I think. Alexander Wu is the third guy in their little trio. I don't know if he was I think he's Grey's Anatomy.
Oh, okay, like one of those. And this is an adaptation of a book? Like, wasn't it also made into some show in China?
Sorry, not Grey's Anatomy. True Blood is what he did before, this Alexander Wu guy. Yes, so from a book called The 3 Body Problem by, I've always called him Cixin Liu. It's Cixin Liu, Liu. It's like Shin or something. I don't know, I can't do it. But for me, in my head, it's always been Cixin Liu because that's what it looks like on the page. And it was a book that took me a good 2 or 3 tries to sort of plow through the first 50 pages before I was able to make it all work for me. And then eventually it took over, and I enjoyed the experience of reading it. What's funny is that the book, as I remember it, has very little to do with characters. Like there's one memorable character, the detective character, I remember being sort of fond of, and otherwise the characters are largely incidental to the plot, to the ideas and the plot that are happening. Whereas the television program has invented like 5 protagonists that we're supposed to care about. It's turned this into a group of fancy, smart scientists who all happen to be involved in the various plot machinations that are going on. And
it's
your
an
mileage.
Alien movie?
I'm sorry?
I don't know anything about this show or whatever. Like, it's like about aliens?
Yeah, it's about aliens. So basically, to quickly sum up, back in the before times, because it's sort of it's a time jump thing also, but back in the 60s during the Chinese Cultural Revolution, a bunch of bad shit happens. And by the way, one of the things that I like about this is that it seems to take seriously the criticisms of the Chinese Cultural Revolution that this Chinese writer had built into his novel, and it doesn't shy away from that at all, which is unusual in the realm of a lot of modern entertainment, which is largely completely uncritical of China in the hopes that it will get past the Chinese censors and therefore become available to that rather large market that they have over there. This doesn't appear to be doing that. I think they realize we probably can't escape the sort of heart of the matter here and try to paper over that. So they just lean directly into it in the opening scene, which is it was cool. It's violent and unpleasant to watch, but it's still good to see the struggle session as it was described in the book. The story is basically that back in 1977 or something, this Chinese woman who is a bit of a dissident and has had this horrible life, but finds herself working more or less in her field as a scientist at what amounts to a search for extraterrestrial intelligence facility in China, a SETI facility there in China, and happens to luck into receiving a signal after she sends a signal out in her sciencey ways. She is one of the only people in the world to realize that a signal has come back. And not to do big spoilers or anything, but essentially she's inviting them to come. She's like, we can't fucking do this anymore. Humans are fucked. And go ahead. Take over, colonize, because
without consulting other humans, she's just like
her life experiences are enough of a consultation, I think, in her mind.
Oh boy!
And so then we jump to now, some 50 odd years later, and the locals are dealing with the consequences of that first contact that was made back in 1977. And setting aside my sort of complaints about, like, you're really going to have to work to pay off the sort of dramatics of these various relationships for me to care one way or another about them, I think they've done a good enough job of preserving the ideas and the interesting aspects of the story that it's worth sticking around for. And so it gets a recommendation from me, albeit a slightly qualified one, which is that I think that they, in order to make this, when I read it, what seemed like a not big budget, like, not that it's an unadaptable thing, but in order to pour the amount of money into the production to make it look like you want it to look, there wasn't enough of the human element, probably, in terms of the way that the story was originally written. So I understand that they needed to add in a bunch of the human element stuff in order to justify spending all of the money on it that they spent on it. But it was money well spent ultimately. It looks good. It's not like that fucking True Detective Night Country show where the opening scene is the Elks very unbelievingly leaping off of a cliff that we're supposed to believe actually exists in the real world, but is actually obviously just in a computer somewhere. The special effects are fine, and it doesn't take you out of the world in any way. So yeah, gets the thumbs up from me so far. Is
Netflix doing like a slow rollout, or are all episodes available?
No, they're all available. They released all 8 episodes of season 1, so you are free to binge as you see fit. It was not what I wanted to do the night before 5 hours of baseball, so I didn't stay up extra late watching it. But yeah, good show. Check it out. It's worth watching. And what's unfortunate is that the first book ends in quite a cliffhanger, and therefore I imagine that the first movie also, or the first series here, is going to end in quite a cliffhanger, and Netflix has not yet announced that they are renewing it for a second and third season, which would be necessary to pay off the entire story as this guy originally conceived it. So I guess we'll see if that happens. I haven't actually yet gotten around to reading the second and third books, but they're on the list.
Even with a cliffhanger, you're like, fuck it.
Well, it's because I had the book in hand for so long, and then I didn't immediately go out and buy the second book. I have it now in my possession, but I just didn't. I wanted to have the physical thing. Like, if I had just been on a Kindle, I probably would have just been like, all right, fine, fucking give me the next thing so I can read the next thing. But because I had to order it physically so that I could possess the thing, I didn't immediately get into it, and by the time I finally received the book, it wasn't important to me anymore. But I'll get back to it eventually. Abe, have you got anything else for us tonight?
Nope.
Well, I guess that's all we've got for tonight then, and we'll talk to you next time.
Later. AMC has a Hate to Love Nickelback showing this week, but they're excluding members from it. I got to pay out of pocket for this. How dare they? Wow. I'm not going to do it.
You have to pay out of pocket to go throw virtual tomatoes at Nickelback? What the fuck is that?
They just want only like true fans, not just like some members.
It's also 25th anniversary of the Phantom Menace. Did the local theater down there offer to show?
No, they will give you like a 2-week heads up with these special whatevers. You know, if it's like 30 years, 25 years, what have you. They haven't said anything. The Matrix, like they kind of timed it toward like it came out like at the end of March of '99. Right. So they're like, oh, let's do. So I don't know when the Phantom Menace came out.
It came out in May. It came out in May.
Okay. So we'll see in a couple of months.
Yeah. The Alamo up here has already announced that they'll have it.
Oh, no kidding.
And I'm thinking about taking the kids, but I think I checked and I think the timing is bad. The problem with these re-releases is that they're not real re-releases. They do like one-off or maybe 2 showings of it, and then it's done. And it's like you can't actually go see it unless you happen to have the time for it at that exact moment.
I can't imagine on purpose seeing the Phantom Menace again.
Oh, it's great in the movie theater.
It's not.
I went and saw it fucking back to back in 1999. I saw
it in theaters.
Fucking 5 hours of the Phantom Menace in one afternoon. Oh, speaking of last week when we found out about the dead princess or the cancerous princess.
Dead.
Still alive.
And you said, is cancer getting more common or
yes.
whatever? And this is a headline. As Princess of Wales reveals diagnosis, doctors warn of mysterious cancer epidemic.
definitely. I mean, that girl I know who got all of a sudden stage 4 colon cancer, they're not just finding it more, it's both.
Yeah.
And it's got to be that.
She's our age.
This is exactly the sort of story that you scroll so you can click this button here.
No!
Which is the comments
Wrong.
button. Because this is where the real weirdos will be.
Don't click it.
We've got processed foods.
They may be right.
We are what we eat. Microplastics?
Although I imagine like the Kate, these rich people are probably eating like organic food, right? So it can't be that.
Oh, look at this.
This person says
The
that
third
in
one.
Wales they don't eat highly processed
I
foods.
doubt seriously that the whales eat highly processed foods.
The Wales, not the Welsh.
Well, she's the princess or the Duchess of Wales. She's referring to her official title here. She's not referring to the people.
Then Duchess is what they would say. The royals, the whales is not a people.
That's what this Sarah here in the Yahoo comments section says is how you were properly referred to Princess Kate.
The proceeding was created with 100% human content.